This September, Diamonds Direct's ultimate offer is back, stronger than ever. Diamonds Direct helps you get the perfect jewelry gift with 0% interest. That's right, enjoy 5 years of 0% financing on any Diamonds Direct purchase. It's your chance to get her the perfect ring with 0 interest and comfortable monthly payments that fit your budget. But act fast. This offer ends September 30th. For details and more, visit diamondsdirect.com. Spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest on approved credit. Only at Diamonds Direct. Your love, our passion.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Tickets. Tuesday. We love Tuesdays. I like Tuesdays because at 11 o'clock, Zach Hicks is set to join me. Love having Zach on. Always does a great job. He hosts the Locked On Colts podcast. So if you want more Colts content, head over there, check out his stuff. Very active on Twitter as well, at Zach Hicks too. So like having him on. He'll join me at 11 o'clock. And, you know, as I continue to think about the Indianapolis sports scene, and I continue to think about the Indianapolis Colts and Caitlin Clark and, you know, the Indiana Pacers, their season starts soon. You know, I was thinking about, you know, the Colts and the way that they played on Sunday, and I was also thinking about Caitlin Clark. And as I was thinking about Caitlin Clark, it took me back to what UConn's head women's basketball coach said, where he talked about her, you know, not being quick enough and all these things as to why she wouldn't be great in the WNBA. But here's the thing about basketball that's interesting to me. If you have the ability to shoot the basketball, it makes everything so much easier. Just look at Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark. Because defenses know that they're capable of pulling up from, you know, 30 plus feet and knocking down a shot, Defenses have to come out further. They have to pressure the ball at all times. And that makes things easier on Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark and the players around them. Because now Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark can go by whoever's guarding them because they're having to guard them so close. So it allows them to go around, get to the rim, finish. When the defense collapses, they can kick it out and find other teammates. Okay, Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark's shooting abilities make the game easier, not only for themselves, but for everyone else because of how defenses have to defend them. I say that because I want to talk about the Indianapolis Colts offense and the stuff that we saw on Sunday. Explosive plays, having the ability to take the top off of a defense in the NFL has the exact same effect as a great shooter like Steph Curry or Caitlin Clark in the NBA. When you have a quarterback, when you're playing against a quarterback that you know has the ability to take the top off of the defense, it makes everything else easier. In the offseason, Shane Steichen talked about this. He talked about the importance of the Colts figuring out how to generate more explosive plays in his second year as the head coach. Because if you look at the Colts last year, it was a lot of not dink and dunk, but there weren't a ton of, 25-yard gains or 30-yard pass plays or 25-yard rushes. It was a lot of, here's 7 yards on first down, 4 yards on second down. A lot of not dink and dunk, but a lot of just consistently good offense as they slowly worked their way down the field, right? But explosive plays makes everything easier. And so Shane Steichen said that there would be an emphasis on that this year. And we saw that on Sunday with the explosive plays that the Colts were able to generate. And he was asked about being explosive yesterday during his media time.
Well, I think it starts with Anthony. Obviously, he's got a huge arm that allows us to push the ball down the field, and then we got the speed on the outside to go get it. And I think when you're explosive like that in the pass game, instead of having those 12, 13, 14 play drives, you get an opportunity to hit some big ones 4 or 5 plays into it, and that's what allows you to be explosive. And if we can continue that explosiveness down the field, it's definitely going to help us going forward for sure.
As he said there at the end, the ability to be explosive is a huge key to having one of the best offenses in the NFL. When we look at the 3 highest scoring offenses last year in the NFL, it was the Cowboys, the 49ers, and the Dolphins. All 3 had the ability, and still do have the ability, to create these big monster plays, right? Miami sticks out immediately. Okay, they can go, they're capable of having a big explosive play at any time because of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Tua's ability to get them the football. The Dallas Cowboys are capable of creating big plays in the pass game at any moment because they have Dak Prescott and a guy in CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks, who's a little bit older but still has that big play ability. The 49ers, right, between Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, like those are 4 guys right off the top of my head who are capable of creating these big explosive plays at any time. And I know that Anthony Richardson's lack of consistency on the layups is frustrating. It's going to drive me crazy this year. It'll drive you crazy as well. Watching him miss relatively easy throws on 3rd and 7 that results in the Colts having to punt the ball away. But here's the fact of the matter. The fact that he can generate big explosive plays already is a big deal, and it is a great sign of things to come. So yesterday, I went back and I really watched a lot of these younger quarterbacks in the NFL. And here was my takeaway. Then again, look, it's week 1. Teams are going to get better. We're going to see guys develop over the course of the season. But as of right now, when you watch the young quarterbacks in the NFL, guys not named Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud live underneath. Okay, we all freaked out, me included. We all freaked out about Bo Nix during the preseason, right? Because he came out and he was like 14 of 20 against the Colts, and then his next preseason game, he was good, and then his 3rd preseason game, he was pretty good. But I watched him week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks struggle to throw the ball further than 5 yards down the field for completions. I watched Will Levis play against the Bears. Will Levis didn't throw the ball down the field. It was a lot of checkdowns, right? Jaden Daniels didn't throw the ball down the field. He was one read and let's run. Caleb Williams couldn't throw the ball down the field either. And the list continues on. And when I look at the best quarterbacks in the NFL, they all possess the ability to hit on big, explosive plays down the field. Okay, Kenny Pickett, first-round pick by the Steelers a couple years ago, is now the third-string quarterback in Philadelphia because he's incapable of pushing the ball down the field. Look around the NFL. There are so many quarterbacks that lack the ability to generate explosive plays. Meanwhile, the best quarterbacks in the NFL do create explosive plays down the field. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, all are capable and look for the big chunk plays down the field. Meanwhile, quarterbacks that are around average, maybe they're a little below average, maybe they're a little bit above average, quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, guys, that are, if they're your starter, you're like, that's fine, but you would really like an upgrade. Those guys don't push the ball down the field and they don't generate big explosive plays. And because of that, their teams will not sniff a Super Bowl with them as their quarterback. When I think about the best offenses of my lifetime, which to be fair, I'm not, I'm 24. I think about the year that the New England Patriots had Randy Moss and Tom Brady played quarterback. They generated so many big plays over the top with Randy Moss's speed. I also think about Tyreek Hill's last 2 years in Kansas City. That, to me, is the best version of the Chiefs offense that we've seen with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. They had this ability to be highly explosive, okay, because of Tyreek Hill. And they had Patrick Mahomes, who at that point had become consistent and willing to take and make the layups. And when I look at Anthony Richardson and I look at this Indianapolis Colts offense and what they're capable of being and what they want to be, like those late Kansas City teams are what I think about. A lot of big plays over the top to guys on the outside that can really run with layups and checkdowns mixed in. And Shane Steichen was asked about Anthony Richardson and his inability to make the layups and the potential of that getting better over time. Here's Colts head coach Shane Steichen.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, those third downs, 3rd and 4 to 6, 7, 8. You got to get some rhythm going there for sure. And obviously, you don't want to be in those 3rd and long situations. I believe we had 10 third downs yesterday. We were 5 of 10. A couple of those were short yardage plays. But 50% 3rd down, pretty good. Obviously, we'd love to be higher, but that's pretty good around the league. But yeah, you got to convert those things to keep the momentum and those drives going for sure.
And wouldn't you anticipate that coming with more experience with the quarterback? The longer you're gonna get better at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, more you play, the more you see, the more experience you're going to have. So I'm excited for this football team moving forward, and Anthony and everybody.
And that was Indianapolis Colts head coach Shane Steichen there talking about Anthony Richardson and how he's going to get better at the layups. He's going to get better at converting, 3rd and 5 and those, 3rd and 7s. Okay, he's going to get better at that. But as of right now, he can hit the big explosive plays. And that is the most important part of any good offense. Okay, I would argue the most important part of the best version of the Kansas City Chiefs offense were the explosive plays. Being explosive and being capable of making big plays down the field is more valuable than being consistent. It is. And if you don't believe me, then look at how the Kansas City Chiefs have drafted since Tyreek Hill left. They have been in search of a receiver that can make big plays down the field. In 2022, they took Sky Moore, small, fast receiver out of Western Michigan with their second-round pick. 2023, they take a bigger but still explosive receiver in Rashee Rice with their second-round pick. Then this year, they traded up into the first round to draft Xavier Worthy. Speed and explosiveness is clearly valued by the best team in the NFL with the best offensive mind in the NFL. And I believe that it's because it makes everything else, including the layups, easier. When you hit, like, just look at the Colts offense on Sunday. There was no consistency whatsoever. But because they were able to generate these big plays, they scored 27 points, which most weeks is going to be enough to win. Okay? When you were able to hit these 40, 50-yard pass plays, it just makes scoring on the drive so much easier. It is so difficult to put together 12-play drives that result in touchdowns for any quarterback in the NFL. And if you don't believe me, look at Patrick Mahomes last year. They had no big over-the-top weapon. They had no one who could stretch the defense. And even though they had Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, they didn't score a ton of points. The Chiefs won games last year because of their defense, not because of their offense. And their offense lacked that big, explosive weapon. You have to have it. And the Colts do with Anthony Richardson as their quarterback. Okay? They also make layups easier when you hit these big, explosive plays. Okay, when the Chiefs, now because they have Xavier Worthy, who is capable of stretching a defense, but also when they had Tyreek Hill, teams have to play with two deep safeties because you're worried about the speed and giving up the big play. Okay, and when we look at the Colts, if they continue to hit these big plays, offense is just going to become easier for them for the same reason. If you're playing with two deep safeties, there's one less guy in the box. It makes it easier to run the football. When you have two deep safeties, it makes the middle of the field and kind of the short areas less congested. Makes it easier to throw the slant route. It makes it easier to throw the out route. It makes it easier to throw the 8-yard curl route. Okay, it makes offense easier. And after week 1, the entire league knows that the Indianapolis Colts are capable of hitting these big plays down the field. Now, 1 week's worth of explosive plays isn't going to change how teams defend the Colts. It's not. But if this continues and the Colts continue to hit these big chunk plays down the field and Anthony Richardson continues, to have a couple, 3 or 4 big explosive plays every game through the air, then teams are going to have to change how they defend the Colts. And that will likely be the adjustment of two deep safeties. That'll give Jonathan Taylor more room to run the football. Okay, it's going to free up some of the layups that Anthony Richardson missed last week, and the Colts offense will be better for it. Okay, so as we sit back and as we watch the Anthony Richardson experience, watch for this. Because if these big plays keep happening, it's going to open stuff up underneath for Anthony Richardson that will make his life easier. The other thing, though, the biggest thing about this is it's really easy to teach someone to make a layup. It is. It's the easiest thing. Okay, that's why that's like the first thing you teach like a 4-year-old when they're trying to play basketball. You teach them how to dribble and how to make a layup because it's easy. Okay? It's hard to teach someone how to make, a 30-foot jump shot. That's why Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark are really the only two people in the history of basketball to consistently do it. And the same thing applies for the NFL. It is hard to teach someone how to hit big chunk plays. It just is. Because if it was easy, then we would see guys get developed into that. And most of the time, guys don't. Meanwhile, it is much easier to teach someone to hit, a 5-yard slant route. It's much easier to teach someone how to throw an out route. So much easier than teaching somebody how to throw the ball 65 yards in the air on a dime after slipping. So much easier. The ups and downs of Anthony Richardson this year are going to be frustrating. We're going to get frustrated by the lack of consistency. But if these big explosive plays continue to happen, then this Colts offense will be fine. Once again, they completed 9 passes on Sunday and still scored 27 points. Okay? Anthony Richardson has the ability to make big plays down the field. And that is more important than making the layups because you can teach someone how to make a layup. So I am excited for Anthony Richardson this year. I'm excited to see him develop. Now, obviously, he has to get better at making the layups. And if he doesn't, then he'll be out of the league. But I like Shane Steichen. I've seen guys like Josh Allen learn how to hit the easy slant route and the out route. Okay? Anthony Richardson, once he starts hitting his layups, because I do think that it's going to happen at some point for him this year, this Colts offense is going to go to an extremely high level, and they'll be a lot of fun to watch. I didn't touch on Alec Pierce yesterday because I just felt like there were more pressing matters to discuss. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Alec Pierce. I've got early thoughts on the Colts' upcoming game against the Green Bay Packers. It's a must win. They need to win that game. But when we come back, I've got thoughts on Alec Pierce and the Colts' upcoming game against the Green Bay Packers. I'll be right back in 4 minutes.
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Coming up 11 o'clock. The one and only Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts is set to join me. Love having him on. Smart guy. Does a really good job covering the Colts. Looking forward to that as he joins me every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Alec Pierce, who I have been hard on. Wasn't very good in year one. Wasn't very good in year two. Had a big day on Sunday, though. And I am not afraid to admit when I was wrong, but I'm not going to say I was wrong. Let me back up. I was unfair to him in his first 2 years for the Indianapolis Colts. His rookie season, he shows up, and his starting quarterback is Matt Ryan, and then it winds up being Sam Ehlinger. Not ideal for anybody. Not ideal for Justin Jefferson. Not ideal for Devontae Adams or any of the best receivers in the league, yet alone a young rookie receiver. Okay, so in 2022, he's got these two horrendously bad quarterbacks in Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger. And then last year, things got better. Colts bring in journeyman backup Gardner Minshew, who's capable of playing the position, certainly better than Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger. But Gardner Minshew's skill set and what he did well or does well as a quarterback doesn't fully line up with what Alec Pierce does well. Gardner Minshew's 8 to 12 yards at a time kind of guy. Not going to let it loose and drop a 40-yard dot. That's just not who he is. If he was that, then he'd be a consistent starting quarterback for his career, and he wouldn't have been a 6th-round pick. But now that Anthony Richardson is the starter, and hopefully he can stay healthy, if he continues to be the starter, he is someone that lines up with what Alec Pierce does well, a field stretcher who can go up and make contested catches. That's what Anthony Richardson wants to do. He wants to push the ball down the field, and that is where Alec Pierce is at his best. He's fast enough to get behind defenses. We saw that on his touchdown reception. He's also ginormous. Like, he's a large human being, so he can make contested catches, which we saw on his big reception in the fourth quarter where Anthony Richardson just threw it as far as he could, and Alec Pierce was like, I'm 6'4", 215. Let me jump over this small defensive back and make this catch. And he did. It was impressive. He has a skill set that Anthony Richardson, I would say, needs. Okay, because as we all know, Anthony Richardson's not going to be the most athletic guy consistently. So having these big body receivers who can make contested catches and have a big catch radius is really nice for Richardson. And so, because, he checks the boxes of what I would say that Anthony Richardson needs in a starting quarterback, or in a receiver, he could have a big year this year. And he's off to a good start. 3 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Pretty good start to the year. We'll see if he continues that. I don't think he will, just because he's a big play guy. And plus, once Josh Downs comes back, it's going to kind of pull away from his target. So that's going to kind of be an interesting thing to keep an eye on throughout the year. How consistent are these Alec Pierce performances, or are we going to get a game like yesterday from time to time where he makes 3 big plays, 2 of them deep down the field? Something I'm going to keep my eye on, but Alec Pierce finally has a quarterback whose strengths as a passer complement his strengths as a receiver. And hopefully he can have another big game on Sunday, because the Colts have to win on Sunday. The Packers opened as 4-point favorites, but the Colts are now favored by 3.5, which tells me that Vegas thinks very highly of Jordan Love. That, or they think very little of Malik Willis. Probably a little bit of both. But when you are given a gift, you just say, okay, and you take it and you use it. Okay, this is something that I'm having to learn. Okay, because I got to be honest, I don't like it when people give me gifts, because then I feel bad because I don't have one for them, and then, all that kind of stuff. Right? But I've gotten to a point now where when people offer me things, unless it's drugs, I just say, okay, and I take it and, use it or whatever, and then I just kind of push the guilt away. The Colts have been given a gift. Jordan Love not playing this week. So instead, they get to play against Malik Willis, former Tennessee Titans backup. Now, Malik Willis offers a different skill set than Jordan Love does. He's more athletic. He can really run. But let's just be honest here. The dude was traded for a 7th-round pick. Okay? That is what he's worth. Okay? Malik Willis is offered a 7th-round pick. He's not very good. This is a game that the Colts should win going away. I'm not worried about Malik Willis at all. He's not a good NFL quarterback. He is never, in his career, Malik Willis has never had a game where he threw for more than 100 yards. He hasn't had a 100-yard passing game in his career. And, like, I get it. Like, he's a backup, but he's also, like, I think taking more snaps in Tennessee than people realize. He's never thrown for 100 yards. Like, he's bad. Seriously, he's horrendously bad. Like, if the secondary gets carved up by Malik Willis, to be fair, the Packers do have a deep receiving core. Like, they've got 3 guys that can really play, and they've got a really good tight end on top of all that. So they've got 4 pass catchers that can go out and make plays consistently. Still, though, it's Malik Willis. If the Colts are giving up passing yards to Malik freaking Willis, like, throw the season away. We're in trouble. Okay? But I have to be honest. After watching the secondary in week 1, I'm not really worried about them. Definitely not worried about them against Malik Willis, because, you know, I talked about this a bit yesterday, and I don't want to redo the whole thing, but secondary gave up 1 big play. Outside of that, they kept everything in front, and they tackled really well. When you hold the opposing quarterback to only 7 yards of completion, it's pretty good. It is. So, not worried about the secondary, but I am worried about the front 7, as we all are. I'm worried about Josh Jacobs, who's probably a tad bit overrated, but still a good running back. And after watching this Colts front 7 last week, we should all be concerned about them stopping the run against this Green Bay Packers team that has a good offensive line and, you know, has a good running back in Josh Jacobs, and also has a guy now in Malik Willis who can also run the ball. That's just a little extra wrench in things. That's just another guy that this front 7 has to worry about. Okay, as I look ahead to Sunday, like, that is the thing that sticks out. Yes, no Jordan Love, it's Malik Willis. Colts should win based off of that alone. But if they give up 200 yards rushing again, then they aren't going to win. Simple as that. And with no Jordan Love, you know Josh Jacobs and these Green Bay Packer running backs are going to get a ton of touches. Joe Mixon got a ton of touches on Sunday, and it wasn't pretty for the Colts. And if Josh Jacobs has a Joe Mixon-esque day, Colts aren't going to win. It's really that simple. Okay, I have plenty of faith in the Colts offense to go in there and score points. When you're capable of putting up big, chunk plays consistently, then, you're going to find a way to score points. So if those big gains continue to happen for the Colts, like, they're going to score. Okay, the question is the defense, and that's been the thing that, we as Colts fans have been most concerned about the entire offseason. Okay, we know what we're getting with Richardson. A lot of good with a mix in there of some bad. We know that Jonathan Taylor is going to find success at some point. Okay, like, I'm not going to freak out and overreact about the Colts offensive line after week 1. They protected Anthony Richardson really well. They were top 5 in pass protection according to PFF. So the pass blocking was good. The run blocking, it's going to come. It's going to happen for this offensive line. Okay? Like, 3 years together, they are talented. I have faith in it. And even if you don't have faith in the offensive line, like, have some faith in Jonathan Taylor. Okay? And look, it's on the road, which I don't think is really that big of a deal. Going to Lambeau, it's overrated. Like, these guys are professional athletes. Okay, these aren't 18 to 22-year-olds going to play at the big house or going to play in Tuscaloosa. Like, home field advantage in the NFL, like, is an advantage when the weather is there, yes, it is. Okay, like the Kansas City Chiefs playing against the Dolphins last year in, 4-degree weather with a wind chill of like -30 and fans are getting frostbite because of the cold. Like that is home field advantage. Going to play at the Miami Dolphins in September, that is a huge advantage for the Miami Dolphins because it's hot. But going on the road to Lambeau in September when it's going to be like 65 degrees, just a nice, good football day, not a big deal. The Colts will be fine. I'm not worried about them going on the road. Okay, so I'm excited to see Anthony Richardson. I'm excited to see what Alec Pierce looks like, but this defense has got to play better than what it did on Sunday. Zaire Franklin, EJ Speed have got to come up and stop the run. That's what they're there for. They are there to stop the run. Okay, Zaire Franklin was one of the tackling leaders in the NFL either last year or 2 years ago. Like that guy has to show up. Okay, because when Zaire Franklin is on and he's filling run gaps, he's a good player. He's not great. But he's not terrible. Okay, he's a capable run defender. He has to show up. EJ Speed is the exact same way. He is a capable run defender. He has to show up and stop the run game. Okay, this defensive line, we know that they're going to get after the quarterback. They got after CJ Stroud all day on Sunday. CJ Stroud's just a magician and found a way to convert some tough third downs. Happens sometimes. Sometimes you play against good players and they make good plays. Insane, I know, right? Malik Willis, though, probably not going to make those plays. Okay, he may get out of the pocket and run for some yards, may have some good scrambles here and there, but the Colts play a lot of zone, so you would think that wouldn't be a major issue. No Jordan Love Sunday. This is a gotta-have-it game for the Colts. Get to 1-1. That's where we all thought that they would be after these first two games. Anyway, some people had them at 0-2. I personally had them at 1-1, so they can get out of Lambeau on Sunday with a win. That will be good. Now, more than one NFL team played, or more than two NFL teams played on Sunday. In fact, all 32 played over these past several days. So top 10 Tuesday, top 10 NFL teams in the league after week 1. That is coming your way when we come back here in 4 minutes.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you guys are having a nice week. Maybe you watched Monday Night Football last night. I did. Very impressed by what the 49ers had. Still don't like them to make the playoffs. Those injuries are coming. Don't know when they're going to happen, but they're going to happen at some point. Without further ado, let me get into Top 10 Tuesday. This is something I've done all off season, something that'll continue into the NFL season, and will continue on past the NFL season. But during the NFL season, it's a little bit different. Every Tuesday morning, we get to wake up knowing that week whatever of the NFL, of that NFL week is over. Okay, so we woke up this morning, NFL week 1, done, gone, set in stone. So from there, we can now assess who the 10 best teams in the NFL are. I'm going to update this list every single week. This isn't a record thing. One of my biggest pet peeves about, other people who do power rankings and people, who rank, stuff for the college football playoff committee. They just look at records. They don't look at who you beat. They don't look at how you played. It's just, they won, so they must be better. Even though football is an incredible sport where the best team doesn't always win. That's why we like it. That's why we enjoy it. For example, number 10 on my list is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They go on the road. They play against a good Miami Dolphins team. But that Dolphins team is not better than Jacksonville. If you watch that game, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know they lost, but they were the better team. If Travis Etienne doesn't fumble the ball heading into the end zone, then they probably would have won that game pretty handily. Trevor Lawrence didn't light up the stat sheet, but to be honest, none of the quarterbacks in the NFL did this week. Okay, this is the lowest week 1 passing yards total by all the quarterbacks combined ever. Okay, no quarterback played awesome this week except for like 2 guys, one being Sam Darnold and the other being Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr, but Derek Carr is playing Carolina, so I'm kind of hesitant to count that. I met a Panthers fan last night. Felt bad for the guy. He was severely depressed. Anyway, back to Jacksonville. They ran the crap out of the ball. The offensive line looks good. They got after Tua. Okay, they can legitimately rush the passer. They are a good football team. Okay, if Javon Holland, Dolphin safety, doesn't make an incredible punch out, then Jacksonville wins that game going away. And we wake up this morning and the lead story was Tyreek Hill wrongfully put in cuffs or whatever. It would also be, are the Dolphins bad? That would have been the other question. Okay, because Jacksonville looks better than Miami. Miami just made one really good play that kind of set off a chain of events that allowed them to win. Number 10 for the top 10 teams in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 9, the Los Angeles Rams. They're good. Which I'm not surprised by. Okay, I've got them losing in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. That is my big prediction for, that's my Super Bowl pick. Okay, they took the Lions to overtime without Puka Nacua, and their 2 starting offensive tackles got hurt. That offense, as long as Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford are there, are going to score a lot of points, especially if Cooper Kupp is the Cooper Kupp of old. And after watching that game Sunday night, he looks like he is. Okay, and I know that their defense got run over in overtime, but that's what the Lions do. They're big, they're physical, they're really high on this list, and they lean on you and they wear on you over the course of a game. Okay, the Lions would have done that to almost every team in the NFL in overtime, just because of how talented they are up front. It doesn't bother me that the Rams lost a road game against a really good Detroit team. They're still one of the best teams in the NFL, and they're incredibly fun to watch. Number 9, the Los Angeles Rams. Next, the Bills at number 8. And I got to be honest, I'm going to have a hard time keeping them anywhere below 8 as long as Josh Allen's playing football. Seriously, they only beat the Arizona Cardinals because they have Josh Allen. Their defense struggled. Okay, they didn't run the ball very well Like, I genuinely have no idea. Genuinely have no idea how the Buffalo Bills won that game. I have no idea how they scored 34 points. The defense was terrible. Okay, no weapons in terms of pass catchers. They didn't run the ball. Josh Allen was just Josh Allen and figured out a way to score 34 points. Okay, it's not sustainable. Okay, he's already banged up. He's got some offhand injury, right? Hurt his left hand or whatever. Okay, but he alone isn't enough. Buffalo has to figure out something to help support him. I'm assuming it's going to be James Cook in the run game at some point, but when you got Josh Allen, makes everything a little bit easier. And we saw that on Sunday, the Buffalo Bills at number 8. Number 7, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield played arguably the best game of any quarterback in the NFL week 1. 24 of 30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was great. Their defense played well. To be fair, they were playing against the Commanders, so I'm trying not to overhype them. That's part of why they're at 7 and they're not higher. If they'd done that to like the Ravens or the Eagles or someone, then they'd be, one of the 5 best teams in the league, I would assume. So it's tough for me to put them higher, but they showed a lot of good things. They still have weapons between Godwin and Mike Evans. They can run the ball with White. The defense is fast. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's a really good football team. They looked like the best team in the NFC South after week 1. Number 6, working through the 10 best teams in the NFL. Number 6, the Houston Texans. We saw it on Sunday, folks. CJ Stroud is really good. He's really good at football. Okay. He's not highly athletic. He's not going to have a game where he runs for 80 yards, but he's incredibly mobile within the pocket. Say what you want about the Colts defense on Sunday, but the Houston Texans, man, say what you want about the Colts defense on Sunday. The defensive line got after CJ Stroud. 4 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. Felt like every 3rd and long, CJ Stroud was running for his life, but he figured out a way to extend plays, find his receivers, and they have multiple weapons. Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Like, they've got dudes on the perimeter who can go and make plays. Joe Mixon's a good running back. They can legitimately run the football. I've got some questions about their secondary, but I really like Singletary, or a corner that they took, with the 3rd overall pick, I think 3 years ago now. So they've got some guys who can play defense. They just got to shore up their safeties and not give up as many big plays. If they can do that, then they're going to be a tough team to beat. Okay, because the only reason the Colts had any chance whatsoever of winning that game is because they were able to generate those explosive plays. If the Texans can clean that up, watch out. They're going to be tough. Number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. I know they lost to the Chiefs, but they're clearly a good football team. Clearly, they're clearly one of the best teams in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, if he makes a throw to Zay Flowers, they win the game. If Isaiah Likely gets his 2nd foot down inbounds in the back of the end zone, then they potentially win the game. Okay? They were going to go for 2 there. Who knows if they would have gotten it or not, because that Kansas City Chiefs defense is incredibly good and incredibly talented. Okay? But Ravens, clearly a good team. My only question coming out of that game is about the offensive line. Felt like they should have given up a ton of sacks, but since Lamar Jackson's your quarterback, you can get away with not having as good of an offensive line. So the Ravens are good. The defense is going to be fine. They've got a lot of new pieces. But with that being said, I still thought that they played well. Roquan Smith's one of the best middle linebackers in football. They're going to stop the run. I like the secondary. They've got the best safety in the NFL. The Ravens are a legitimate AFC contender, even though they lost a tough road game against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. Number 4 on the list, the Dallas Cowboys, who extended Dak Prescott right before week 1, okay, because they just like to be talked about. Okay, I feel like it would have been better if they had just, saved a little bit of money, extended Dak early, but hey, Jerry Jones is going to be Jerry Jones. And they looked really similar to how they looked last year. Okay, CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott are going to make a ton of plays in the passing game. CeeDee Lamb's going to get open. Dak Prescott's going to find them. Brandon Cooks is good to have a couple explosive plays here and there. He had, like a 20-yard touchdown reception. Okay, like that's what the offense is going to be. It's going to be a lot of Dak and a lot of CD, and we're going to see them kind of mix in the run game. And then defensively, it's just a ton of speed with Micah Parsons wrecking games because that's what he did on Sunday. He was in the backfield all day. He was everywhere. Trayvon Diggs is back, one of the better corners in the NFL. He had an interception. They looked awesome in week 1 against a Cleveland team that I actually think isn't going to be that bad. Like, I like Cleveland. Don't love them, but like them. Okay, it's hard for me to rank them, though, after seeing that Deshaun Watson performance from Sunday. So we'll, see more from Dallas. I like what I saw from them in week 1, though. They come in 4th on my top 10 NFL rankings after week 1. Number 3, San Francisco. Okay, once again, I've got them missing the playoffs, but they had to be ranked after what they did last night. They looked like the 49ers team that made the Super Bowl last year. They ran the ball against a good Jets defense. Brock Purdy didn't make mistakes. Their defense was elite. As long as they're healthy, they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. They did it last night without Christian McCaffrey, which, I think speaks to how good this roster is, but it's an older roster. If they can stay healthy, then they will be fine, and they'll continue to be one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the NFL, and everyone will, have them potentially making the Super Bowl again. So we'll see what they continue to look like. If they continue to stay healthy, then they'll be one of the best teams in the NFL. Number 2, the Detroit Lions. They have the best roster in the league. Weapons everywhere. Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome. Montgomery's a good running back. Williams had a big day. He's finally going to get to play a full season because, he tore his ACL coming out of Alabama. And then last year he had the gambling suspension. And it was just a lot of not good things. Okay. But no suspension this year. No rehabbing ACL injuries. Okay. Like, they've got multiple receivers that can make plays. They've got multiple running backs. They've got the best offensive line in the NFL. The Detroit Lions offensive line is what Colts media thinks the Colts offensive line is. Okay, that Detroit team, they're going to lean on you. They're going to protect Jared Goff, who, when he has time to throw the football and when he gets to stand in a clean pocket, he's going to make good throws. It's what he's going to do. He is a good starting NFL quarterback. Okay, better than Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott and these guys, but not quite Mahomes and Allen and Lamar and Joe Burrow. Okay, they have a great coaching staff. I love Coach Campbell. I think that the ability to rally the troops and to get guys to play hard is difficult, especially when guys are making millions and millions of dollars a year. I feel like it becomes even more difficult to do that. They have a great defensive coordinator. They have a great offensive coordinator. 2 guys that interviewed for head coaching jobs last year decided to come back. That, to me, points to the Lions having a good culture in the building. That guys want to come back and they don't really want to leave unless it's a great situation for them. So the Detroit Lions check every box. Great roster, great offensive line, great weapons, great quarterback. They've got, they've addressed the secondary issues that they had last year, both through the draft and free agency. They've got a pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson who can really get after the quarterback. Like, they check every box. They have the best roster in the NFL. Because of that, I have them as the second best team in the NFL. Number 1, Kansas City Chiefs. They're better than they were last year. Need I say more? Okay, the best team in the NFL, the team that won the Super Bowl got better, which just is absurd. That usually doesn't happen. Okay, Xavier Worthy has brought the explosiveness back to this Chiefs offense, which was a major thing that they were missing last year. Like, if you look at why they struggled, it's because they couldn't generate big chunk plays. And as I said, to open the show, like, if you aren't generating big explosive plays, it's just so much more difficult to score the football. But now they've got this guy in Xavier Worthy, who ran the fastest 40 time ever at the combine. And then you watched him on Thursday Night Football. People were freaking out because he had a reverse where he scored. Look, he doesn't have to have a big year. His speed alone is going to free up so much for this Kansas City Chiefs offense. Rashee Rice had a big first game against Baltimore. Should he have been playing? Probably not. But, the NFL decided not to suspend him for whatever reason. So we got a full look at what this Chiefs offense is going to look like with all these weapons. And Travis Kelce didn't even play well. He didn't. So we'll see how they continue to get better, because that they're going to. That defense for the Chiefs as well is awesome. Okay. Spagnuolo is incredible. Okay. He's the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. 4 Super Bowl rings as a defensive coordinator, the most ever for a coordinator. So, he's going to dial it up on defense. They've got playmakers at every level. Like, that Kansas City Chiefs team, hands down, the best team in the NFL. And until someone dethrones them, they're probably going to be number 1 every single week. So one more time for you. The 10 best teams in the NFL: 10 Jacksonville, 9 the Rams, 8 the Bills, 7 the Bucks, 6 the Texans, 5 the Ravens, 4 the Cowboys, 3 the 49ers, 2 the Lions, and the number 1, the Chiefs. When we come back here in about 5 minutes, the one and only Zach Hicks is set to join me. We're going to talk about the Colts the Colts loss over the Colts loss against the Houston Texans, and we're going to start to look ahead a little bit, talk about their upcoming matchup against the Green Bay Packers. All of that is coming your way here in about 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. I'm going to waste no time. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts joins me. You can follow him on Twitter at ZachHicks2. Great follow if you want clear, level-headed, objective opinion on the Colts. Zach, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. Yeah, objective opinion unless the game is going on. Then when the game is when the game is actually happening, it's not as objective. It's more pessimistic and screaming at a wall. But besides that, yes, I really appreciate that intro there.
Well, isn't that what Twitter's for? That is the wall that we all scream at, right?
Oh yeah. No, I don't even think when I'm tweeting out during games, like if something happens or something just crosses my mind, it's going out there, and then afterwards I'm like, I apologize for the man I was during game. It's like someone who drinks too much, whatever. You wake up the next morning like, I'm so sorry if I said anything. Like that's me during a game, completely sober though. During a game,
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what it is.
That's funny. So my open today. I talked about Anthony Richardson, and I went back yesterday and I watched all of the young quarterbacks in the NFL. Will Levis, all the rookies, obviously Stroud. And my takeaway watching all these young quarterbacks is that everyone not named CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson lived underneath. There was no willingness to push the ball down the field. And when I look at just the development of quarterbacks, it is so much easier to teach someone how to make a 6-yard completion versus anything over 20 yards. And I think it's pretty clear that Anthony Richardson is capable of pushing the ball down the field. So I'm encouraged after that first game from Richardson because like I said, I think you can teach someone how to throw a 5-yard slant route on 3rd and 4. What did you kind of think of Richardson after the first game?
It's kind of funny. It's such a stark contrast from what we saw in week 1 last year with Anthony Richardson, where Steichen kept it very simple for Richardson, we're going to throw to the flats a lot. We're going to do a lot of rollouts. That way you're not really reading the whole field. We're going to get you to set your feet like right at the snap. That way you're not really having to go through full field reads. And we saw in that Jaguars game last year, like he didn't really push the ball down the field too much in that one. And honestly, it kind of like, I'm not going to say it was an issue, but it was something that we saw his rookie season where he wasn't really pushing the ball down the field too much. He got more comfortable, obviously, like that Rams game and the Titans game. But so like that first like little bit of last season we saw at Richardson, it's like you have the training wheels on the bike. This first game, it was like they took the training wheels off. They found the steepest mountain they could find, and they kicked him down it. And they said, go do your thing. Show us how much you've learned on the bike here. And it had some varying degrees of success. I'm not going to say it was a perfect day by any means, but he had 12 of his attempts in this game came over 10 yards down the field. I think 6 of them went over 20 yards down the field, including 2 like absolute bombs to Alec, the dart to Ashton Doolin that resulted in a touchdown. So yeah, like I'm with you. I think when you look at young quarterbacks play and stuff, like you see a lot of timid play overall, like getting the ball out underneath, just getting the ball out of their hands and let the receivers do their thing. And what separates the really good quarterbacks from, young quarterbacks or the quarterbacks who aren't as good is that willingness and the ability to push the ball down the field and, create windows that aren't necessarily there. So for Richardson, it's like he's shown us the ability that he can do those things that great quarterbacks can do, where it's like, look, I can push the ball down the field. I can make your coverage pay if you're not covering from yard, 20 to 60 down the field. I can make your defense pay. It's all about just establishing that underneath game to build that consistency for him. So, before I jumped on, I told you it's like you have a guy who can hit half court shots at a high level, but the layup line needs a little bit of work. I feel pretty comfortable with that level of quarterback. Like even if like he doesn't develop into an elite short passer, if you're just a fine short passer and you have that ability to hit these bombs down the field at a good level, like I'm very optimistic in what you can be. So overall, like, yes, if this was his 50th start or his 60th start, I think we could be a lot more critical and say like this, this needs to be a little bit better. But for a guy who's in his fifth or sixth start, I think it's his 5th start in the NFL, very positive showing. And And in a day where pretty much everything went wrong for the Colts, he had to play hero ball and almost got them the win against a really good Houston Texans team. Like, of all the things that you can critique about this past game with the Colts, Richardson and Pierce and Doolin, like those are maybe the other two guys. Like, those are the guys who are kind of absolved from a lot of the blame. I think a lot of the blame goes to pretty much everyone else. But it was fun watching Richardson out there. At the end of the day, it was fun, at least. Like, we got to at least say that. Like, fun football from Anthony Richardson. Let's make it a little bit better going forward, but fun, explosive football. Can't complain too much when you see that.
That's very much how I feel. Joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked On Colts. You can follow him on Twitter at Zach Hicks2. Yeah, I'm with you. Very pleased with Richardson. Missed some throws here and there. It's going to happen. Like you said, it's only start number 5, right? It's not start 50 or 60. Like, he's going to improve and get better. And something that I think will help him, and something that I don't think people are giving him enough credit for, is the only reason the Colts had any chance on Sunday is because of Richardson. He accounted for 268 of the Colts' 303 yards. Like, there was no run game. The only reason they had a chance was because of Richardson. Why do you think the Colts didn't run the ball better with Jonathan Taylor?
Man, I gotta say, I gotta give credit to the Texans in a lot of ways for this game. I mean, offensively and defensively, they won from a coaching standpoint. They won from an energy standpoint, an effort standpoint. Because I really looked at the run game and I was like, okay, why was this not working? And you could look at some aspects of the Colts being like, look, a missed block here. Ryan Kelly doesn't get to his guy. Jonathan Taylor tiptoeing through the hole wasn't really getting it there. Colts kind of abandoning the run at times and not leaning on it, not mixing RPOs with it. Like, yes, there are things the Colts could have done better, but also, like, these Texans players they just wanted, I mean, I know it's such a cliche thing to say, like, they just kind of wanted it more. Like, I'm seeing some of these plays where it's like a perfectly blocked play, and it's like, oh, this should be like a 10-plus yard run. And then you see Jalen Petrie come flying out of the corner in a run fit that he has no business making and making a great tackle. You see, I think the linebacker's name is Alshier, the linebacker who's all over the place in this past game. Ton of really good stops from him, just making high-level plays. So, like, at some point you do have to give some credit to your opponent just for playing out of their mind in this one. Yes, the Colts could have been much better and not gone away from the run game as early. I think, one thing they certainly could have done is lean more on the QB run game, at least getting Richardson to the edge a little bit more. I mean, again, you can save him some hits because he can run out of bounds on those. But get him to the edge a little bit, open up the middle of the defense by using Richardson's legs to kind of spread them out because the QB run game was really working. But yeah, like, little things like that could have been better. But at the end of the day, they just got punched in the mouth by a good Texans team, and the Texans team that, kind of wanted it a little bit more. And I know that's a big problem here, obviously, too. But there are going to be some games every season where you do have to give your hat, take your hat off for the opponent. And, credit to the Texans, man. They came out in this game and they wanted to establish themselves as not a finesse team by any means. Like, I know they got all the flashy, big free agent signings or whatever, but they came out and they punched the Colts in the mouth. And hopefully the Colts can adjust from that and get better for next week, because that just certainly can't happen with how much they've invested in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
That's exactly right. Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. Yeah, that's the run game. Like, and here was the really frustrating thing for me. You mentioned Alshier, Daniil Hunter was really good for the Texans. Autry was good for the Texans. All three of those guys acquired through free agency. So,
yeah,
there's that. Yeah, I just, every time they made a play, I was just like, the Colts could have gone and gotten that guy. Not that
right.
not that they needed them, because those are front seven guys. And I think coming into the year, we all thought that this Colts front seven was going to be good. And then they give up 203 rushing yards in their first game against Houston. I don't really mind I thought that the defensive line was fine. Could they have been better in the run game? Of course. But they got after C.J. Stroud, I thought, really well. I was more disappointed in the performance from Zaire Franklin and E.J. Speed. I felt like they're kind of the ones to blame when it came to the run game. How did you kind of feel about the front seven in terms of their ability to defend the run?
Yeah, I think it was kind of again, you got to give some credit to the Texans here, because they did have a really good scheme and a really good idea of, hey, this Colts team is going to sit in nickel all day. They want to take away the pass, and credit to, look, I'm not saying Stroud had a bad game by any means, but credit to the Colts pass defense to where like they were kind of fine in pass defense all get like outside of Stroud making a couple ridiculous plays, like the Colts pass defense was perfectly fine in this game. Like you're going to survive a lot of games if they get the output they got from the pass defense in this. So the Colts definitely game plan to stop the pass and take away the pass, but because of that, the Texans came out in a lot of these heavy personnel sets, 12, 13 personnel with multiple tight ends in the field, fullbacks on the field, and they were running power at the ends. They were pinching down on the ends. They were taking advantage of every time that Grover and Buckner weren't out there. And even when Grover and Buckner were out there, they weren't having their best days. And then, like you said, the linebackers, it just was not a remotely good day whatsoever from them in run defense. And the big thing is here, again, I think Gus Bradley had a fine game plan for the pass defense. And whenever the Colts got Stroud in a 3rd and long, aside from the one where he rolled out and made a ridiculous throw across his body, which is one in a million chance that's going to complete. Aside from that, they had success when they got to, 3rd and long, 2nd and long in pass situations because the defensive line had a pretty good day rushing the passer. But when your run defense is completely collapsing like this, you just have no way of winning. You can't get bludgeoned like that on the ground and expect to win in the NFL. Even in this new age of football where everyone wants to throw for 1 million yards, and I know nobody actually did this past weekend. It was a pretty crazy day for throwing the ball, but it's everyone wants to throw the ball all the time, and that's what the analytics say and all that. But if you're allowing 5, 6, 7 yards a pop on the ground, you're not going to win. And I know it's a very simple concept, but getting bludgeoned like that is demoralizing. There's feels like there's this helpless feeling that you can't do anything, and your defense really corrodes because of it, and it leads to these really long, sustained drives. And then when your offense on the other side for the Colts is scoring in 2 plays, you're back out there getting bludgeoned again on the next play for another 15-play drive. So, it was a compounding effect of a lot of different things, but overall, front 7 just not doing what they need to do. And like you mentioned with the Texans, they paid a lot of money to outside free agents for their front 7 to come in and fix their front 7. And we saw that energy, that ability from play 1. When it comes to the Colts front 7, they're making a lot more than the Texans front 7, but they were just, in-house guys. They're all these guys getting paid big money. So 2nd contract guys, 3rd contract guys, there's no excuse for the performance that happened out there with the Colts front 7 and run defense. The secondary tackled well, but you should never have a game where Nick Cross, Julian Blackmon, and Jalen Jones are your leading tacklers.
That's right.
And it's not because they were getting killed in the passing game. It was because they had to make tackles at the 3rd level in the run game. So, it's funny, man. The thing I felt most comfortable in with the Colts going to this matchup was I think they're going to be able to punch the Texans a little bit in the trenches on both sides. And we'll see if that translates to a victory. Instead, it was the Texans beating the crap out of the Colts in the trenches. And the only reason the Colts were in this game, again, is because of Richardson and obviously big plays by Pierce and Doolin and Saguna Luby, I guess, on special teams. You want to give a shout out to him. But, it was not at all what I expected. Hopefully, it was just week 1 craziness. But that was the most embarrassing aspect of this game for the Colts. That front 7 just getting beat up like that on the ground. I mean, I haven't seen a running back look like that against the Colts since Derrick Henry in 2021.
Yeah.
And if we're talking non-Derrick Henry running backs against the Colts, I felt like I was watching Maurice Jones-Drew and Fred Taylor just doing whatever they wanted.
Going way back.
Yeah, it felt like that. It felt so helpless watching their run defense, and it was such a drastic turnaround from last year, where it was every time the Texans called a run against the Colts, it was thank you so much. Oh, thank you. You're helping us out here so much by calling a run. This year, it was please call a pass. Please, don't run the ball because we can't do anything. It's just such a helpless feeling, man. And it was frankly embarrassing to watch.
It really was. Joined by Zach Hicks, host of Locked On Colts. And like you said, the things that we felt good about, the Colts' ability to run the ball, the front 7 didn't show up. And the thing we were most worried about, the secondary, I thought played well. They gave up the one big shot to Nico Collins. Outside of that, I thought they kept everything in front. Stroud only averaged, I think, 7 yards per completion. That's really good. I was pleased with how they played. What'd you kind of think of the secondary?
It was fine. I know a lot of people were piling on Jalen Jones after the game because of that third down scramble drill. It's hard to really fault a defensive back for a scramble drill just because all rules go out the window when the quarterback is moving out the pocket and has a free lane to run. So it's a tough one, and Stroud just made a one-on-one play. And then obviously the hold in the end zone was his worst play there. There's obviously plays that the secondary wants back. The deep shot to Nico Collins. If Cross turns around, he can break that ball up. The touchdown to Diggs, both touchdowns to Diggs, honestly, they got to be a little bit better in their technique and, pass off the first one, second one, they got to be closer on the player. So, I wouldn't grade the secondary as good in this game by any means, but they took away a lot of deep shots in this one. They took away a lot of those opportunities. They were competitive on a lot of these passes. Jalen Jones had a great pass breakup on a deep shot that Stroud threw to Tank Dell. So overall, if we're grading them on a curve, you give them a B or something because you're grading them on the curve of we weren't expecting anything from you. So thank you for at least being solid.
Yeah.
But just them giving you a C or a B performance every week should be enough for the Colts to win games. That's as long as the guys who are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars in front of them are doing their job. And also on the other side of the ball with the offensive line and the running back and wide receiver one, the guys who are getting paid the big bucks should be the ones that are carrying this team to victory. It shouldn't be reliant on the fifth start quarterback and the secondary who has a bunch of toddlers back there. So it's, I want to say kudos to the secondary for being fine, but it's hard to ignore. They weren't great, but they were the best part about the defense, I guess. It was just them and the pass rush, I guess. But the pass rush barely had a chance to do anything, especially in the second half. So just a frustrating film watch on the defense, man. I'm gonna burn that film, I think, and never look at it again.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. So the team going forward, I feel optimistic about. I feel like 27 points and 20 minutes worth of having the ball is really good. I think that most weeks if the Colts score 27 points, they're going to win. I feel pretty good about them going forward. How do you kind of feel, I guess, just after week one, after actually seeing a real game?
I think there is something to be said about a team, and I want to preface this, but I'm not trying to go the moral victory route. I know people hate the term moral victories. I'm not trying to take that route because it is a frustrating and annoying loss, and they got to be better than this. But I do think it says something about a team where when you literally have every single thing go wrong in your game, you have a red zone interception where your tight end fell down and it went right to a Texans defender. You have the turnover battle you lose and you don't even get those two turnovers that you got on Stroud because of a foot coming down the wrong way and a holding penalty. You get just destroyed on the ground game. You lose the trenches. Stroud is near perfect on the day in terms of just efficiency. The special teams, the Texans were kicking 50-yard field goals with ease in this one. You had every single thing that went wrong against a good Houston Texans team, one of the better teams in the league, and they lost by 2. They got outcoached, outplayed, out-physicaled, and they lost by 2. And I know some of that is week one, craziness, whatever, but I think the marker of a good team is when you lose games, you keep it close and competitive in one-score games. When you win games, you pull away and you really put teams away. So we're going to learn a lot about this Colts team, obviously, this next 3 weeks when they play very, very winnable games against the Green Bay Packers with Malik Willis. They play against, the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams and the Pittsburgh Steelers and whoever they're starting at quarterback. Those are winnable games. So we'll learn a lot about this team these next couple of weeks. If they can win these games and pull away from these teams, this loss to Houston seems like a typical loss that a good team has, where things are just not going your way, but you still made it a competitive game. So yeah, I'm not taking the moral victory route, but to watch a game where, again, everything went wrong and they were still able to take it down to the wire and be there in the end, I do think that is a good sign for a young team early in the season. Obviously, we'll learn a lot more by the end of September, but I'm feeling fairly optimistic right now. Not as optimistic as I would have been if the defense would have gotten off the field on that third down and gave the ball back to Richardson and Richardson led a field goal. Then I'd be super optimistic. I'd be doing cartwheels right now while we're on the show. But Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Like I'm not too concerned about this team. I see like the run defense being this bad and Shane Steichen being just outcoached by D'Amico Ryan. I'm seeing those as hopefully being outliers and things that can change going forward. Because if you just fix those two areas, the Colts are going to be a really good team if they got the output they got from everyone else.
Without a doubt, joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. What are your expectations for Sunday? Malik Willis never had an NFL game where he threw for 100 yards, but he can run, and so can Josh Jacobs. So there is places to be worried, and I think the Packers' defense is pretty solid. You know that their offensive line is going to be good because the Packers always have a good offensive line. Like I don't think that the Colts just walk in and win by 10. Like there's definitely areas of concern for me after watching this team week 1. How do you kind of feel about them?
Yeah, like look, it's an early season game, and I know the results early in season can be a little crazy. So I'm not going to say it's a gimme game, but it's pretty close. I mean, early in the season, like I'm not trying to throw shade at Malik Willis here, but if you're a quarterback in the NFL being traded for a conditional 7th round pick or conditional 6th, whatever it was, like that means you were cut from a team. Like you were cut essentially. Like you can't lose to a quarterback that was cut in final cut downs or traded for a conditional pick in final cut downs. Like it just simply can't happen. So if you're a team that really has playoff aspirations or any kind of aspirations this season, this is the game for the Colts that you can't really drop. You can't, like, I know it's an NFC game. It's not that important in the standings, but like if you're getting a chance to have a very winnable game on the road early in the season, you got to take advantage. So the Colts, if they want to be a playoff team this year, this is the type of game you got to take care of and get the win. By no means am I thinking this is going to be the most perfect, pretty game, because I can already guarantee there's going to be at least 1 or 2 Richardson starts this season that are just absolutely abysmal.
Yeah.
Because he is going to be those highs and lows this year. And the scary part about that is it can happen against anybody. Like it could happen in one of these quote unquote like gimme games against Malik Willis and you end up losing a 10-9 game or something, or it could happen against Jared Goff and you lose by like 30. Like I'm not sure when that's coming.
Yeah.
But you hope it's more so against the good teams and the bad teams, so you can rack up those wins against the bad teams. But overall, though, I think this is a game that they really do need to take care of. Run defense is certainly going to be tested, like you said, but you got to get right at some point in that. You got Jason Bean on the practice squad to simulate whatever Willis is going to do, so that's why you got Bean around. Really fun times there coming for him. A big week for him, but
I'm going to go to practice this week.
yeah, there we go. But yeah, it's a big get right week for the Colts. Like you got to get this thing back on track. Shane Steichen needs to get something really going on the offense in terms of, designing the layups and getting the run game back. And then on defense, it's like, you got to have a good game against Malik Willis. If you get bludgeoned by Malik Willis led offense, like my low expectations. Yeah. My low expectations are much lower. So yeah, it's certainly time to get right for this Colts team. I know it's early, even if they lose this, not the end of the world, but you got to get this one.
I don't know. 1-1 sounds so much better than 0-2 though.
It does.
And I just, especially since I don't know how you kind of viewed. I feel like the consensus opinion coming into the year was the Colts would be 0-2 to start the year, having to play the Texans and then the Packers. So being able to come out of it 1-1, I think would actually be really nice heading into another game against a quarterback who's never had 100 yards passing in a game, Caleb Williams, and then having to play the Steelers led by Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, right? So being like, if they win this week, like there's a legit chance we look up and they're 3-1 after the first month, which would be a great place to be.
Yeah, look, you got to stack wins in this early stretch here and then in the late stretch, which we've talked about all offseason, which is that final 5 games, because that middle stretch where they're running into the Jets, the Bills, the Lions, the Dolphins in there. I think they have the game at Jacksonville in that middle stretch, which we know is never going to be a win. Like, you got to start stacking the wins when they're like given to you on a silver platter. Like, I know nothing is guaranteed in the NFL, and I'm not trying to say the Packers some pushover team. Like, they're a good, well-coached football team, but you've got to take advantage of situations like this. The reason why the Colts didn't make the playoffs last year isn't because of Tyler Goodson dropping a pass and Minshew misthrowing that pass. It's because they didn't take care of business against the Derek Carr New Orleans Saints, the Jake Browning Cincinnati Bengals, the PJ Walker Cleveland Browns, or the Taylor Heineke Atlanta Falcons. You win any of those games and you're in the playoffs last year. So
yeah,
you got to take advantage of these type of games, unlike they did last year, if you want to be a serious playoff team.
Yeah, that's a great point. Zach, you were great as always. Give me a score prediction for Sunday before you go.
Oh gosh. Let's see. I think it'll be ugly.
How about this? Give me a big play counting prediction for Anthony Richardson. How many big 20+ yard plays will Anthony Richardson be responsible for?
Oh, I don't know, man. This psycho will just throw it deep when in doubt. Let me just chuck it 400 yards down the field.
Where's Alec Pierce?
Yeah, wherever Alec Pierce. You know what though? Like, I am fully on board with if I ever see Alec Pierce one-on-one with a safety, I'm just going to toss it up there. Like, do that all year. I'm 100% on board. But I think, look, when it comes to Richardson, what we can kind of expect from him is like, he's good for like a good 4 or 5 20+ yard games a start, along with, I mean, he's averaging like 2 touchdowns a start in his career at this point, and with 3 of those starts he didn't even finish, and he's averaging 2 touchdowns a start, so he's averaging like 2.5 touchdowns a game essentially, or almost 3. So I don't know, we haven't seen the awful start from him yet, and I'm terrified of when that's going to come. But from what we can expect from him so far through 5 starts is like, we're going to see a good amount of explosive plays, and we're going to see a couple touchdowns from him. So it's hard not to expect that from him. But like, score prediction, like, I think it'll be an ugly run the ball game for both teams. Like, I'll say 23-13 Colts, get out of there with a win, and let's get on to the next game.
I like it. And look, I want as many explosives as possible. Like, I know people they're going to freak out all year about missing, the slant route on 3rd and 4. That's fine. I get it. But when I look at the Chiefs, they had the best quarterback in the NFL last year, and they struggled to score points in stretches because they couldn't generate big explosive plays. Like, if you want to score in the NFL, it is so incredibly helpful to have that 30-yard play somewhere on your drive. So as long as he keeps doing that, the Colts will be fine in terms of their ability to score points.
Yeah, the defense will be winded for the Colts, but as long as you're scoring points, that's all that matters. So yeah, right. I'm with you on there. Get the points on the board.
That's right. Zach, thanks for your time, man. You were great as always.
Of course, man. Anytime.
See ya. That is Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. You can go search for Locked On Colts. You can check out that podcast. He does a great job. You can also follow him on Twitter at Zach Hicks 2. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, I've got some thoughts on explosive plays in this Colts offense.
More winners, more often. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Head over to YouTube, search for Indy's Sports Ticket. Join the YouTube chat. A lot of discussion right now about Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson, who I'm about to continue to defend because I like him. I really do. Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark's ability to shoot the basketball is what makes everything else about their game so great. Because defenses know that those two players can pull up from 30 feet, they have to play them very tightly, which makes it easier for Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark to go around their defender, right? You know, allows them to get to the rim and finish. It allows for defenses to collapse, and they're able to kick out and find teammates that are open. Steph Curry and Caitlin Clark's shooting ability makes the game easier for themselves as well as for everyone else. Explosive plays in the NFL have the same effect. When you know the quarterback that you're playing against has the ability to take the top off the defense, it makes everything else easier. Okay? During the offseason, Colts head coach Shane Steichen made a point saying that he wanted for the Colts to generate more explosive plays. They did that on Sunday, and he was asked yesterday how they were able to create those explosive, big chunk plays.
Well, I think it starts with Anthony. Obviously, he's got a huge arm that allows us to push the ball down the field, and then we got the speed on the outside to go get it. And I think when you're explosive like that in the pass game, instead of having those 12, 13, 14 play drives, you get an opportunity to hit some big ones 4 or 5 plays into it. And that's what, allows you to be explosive. And if we can continue that explosiveness down the field, it's definitely going to help us going forward for sure.
That was Indianapolis Colts head coach Shane Steichen talking about how they were able to generate those big explosive plays on Sunday. And explosive plays are incredibly important for offenses in the NFL. Look at the best scoring offenses in the NFL last year. All 3 of them, the Cowboys, the 49ers, and the Dolphins, all 3 had the ability to create big, explosive chunk plays. The Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, a guy able to get loose and create big plays. Same thing with Brandon Cooks. The 49ers, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, okay, Christian McCaffrey, all 4 capable of creating big, explosive chunk plays. The Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane, guys capable of creating big, explosive chunk plays. When you're able to create big chunk plays, it makes everything on offense so much easier. It's easier to score. It makes the underneath stuff easier. It is an important part of any offense in the NFL if it's going to be successful. Okay? If you don't believe me, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what they couldn't do last year? Create explosive plays. And because of that, that is the worst offense we've seen from the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. Okay, when you're having to spend every single drive, executing 10, 11, 12, 13 plays, it is incredibly difficult to score. Okay? The ability to push the ball down the field and make big plays in the passing game or even the running game makes offense easier. And when I look around the NFL and I look at the best quarterbacks, they can all do that. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow all have the ability and look for the opportunity to push the ball deep down the field. This is what separates good quarterbacks from great quarterbacks. Okay, guys like Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, average-ish quarterbacks don't have the ability to push the ball down the field. What happened to Russell Wilson? His arm strength went, his ability to push the ball down the field was gone, and he became a bad quarterback. Look at Peyton Manning towards the end of his career. His arm strength his last year in Denver was gone. He lost the ability to push the ball down the field, and he looks like a bad quarterback. That's the reality of it. You have to have the ability to push the ball down the field. Okay, and as I look at the young quarterbacks in the NFL, a lot of them don't do it, and that's why a lot of them won't be successful. I went back, I watched a lot of the young quarterbacks from Sunday, and guys not named Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud, most of them, all of them really, lived underneath. Bo Nix struggled throwing the ball down the field. Will Levis couldn't throw the ball down the field. Jaden Daniels, his numbers look good. He was like 17 to 24. Great. Guess what he didn't do? Throw the ball down the field. And they got crushed and they didn't score very many points. Caleb Williams didn't push the ball down the field and they scored 3 offensive points because of it. You have to be able to push the ball down the field and hit on explosive plays. That is the hardest thing to do in the NFL as a quarterback. And we just saw Anthony Richardson do it multiple times in week 1. Okay, it is a must-have. When we look at the Kansas City Chiefs, the best version of that offense was with Tyreek Hill. And it's not because Tyreek Hill is this incredible offensive player, even though he is, but just the ability and the threat of explosive plays made everything else easier for Patrick Mahomes. It did. It opened up the underneath throws. It opened up Travis Kelce over the middle. It opened up the run game. And that is what the Colts want to look like long-term with Anthony Richardson. They want to be this deep threat. We can hit a home run at any time type of offense that, because of that threat, makes everything else easier. Okay? And as time proceeds, and Anthony Richardson has more than 5 starts as an NFL quarterback, and when Anthony Richardson is no longer the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL, he is going to get better at making the layups. And Shane Steichen was asked about making the easier throws, more specifically on third down, yesterday during his press conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, those third downs, 3rd and 4 to 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you got to get some rhythm going there for sure. And obviously, you don't want to be in those 3rd and long situations. I believe we had 10 third downs yesterday. We were 5 of 10. A couple of those were short yardage plays. But 50% third down, pretty good. Obviously, we'd love to be higher, but that's pretty good around the league. But yeah, you got to convert those things to keep the momentum and those drives going for sure.
And wouldn't you anticipate that coming with more experience with the quarterback? The longer you're gonna get better at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, more you play, the more you see, the more experience you're going to have. So I'm excited for this football team moving forward, and Anthony and everybody.
That was Shane Steichen talking about Anthony Richardson just improving at hitting the layups and converting, 3rd and 4 and things like that. He's going to get better at it the more reps that he gets. And I would continue to argue that the most important part of any offense is the explosive plays. Okay, being explosive and being capable of making big plays is more valuable than being consistent. Okay, because when you play against the best defenses in the NFL and you play in the playoffs and you're playing against the 49ers or the Chiefs who have awesome defenses, you're not going to successfully run 13 plays in a row and score a touchdown. It's not going to happen. You have to have some sort of element in your offense that allows you to create big plays. And you have to have a quarterback who is capable of making those throws. And Anthony Richardson is. And if you don't believe me about the importance of explosive plays, look at how the Chiefs have drafted since Tyreek Hill left. They have been searching for an explosive element in their offense. In 2022, they took Sky Moore, fast receiver out of Western Michigan, with their 2nd-round pick. 2023, they took a bigger but still explosive receiver in Rashee Rice with their 2nd-round pick. Then this year, they trade up in the 1st round to draft Xavier Worthy. It is required, if you want to have a great offense in the NFL, to have a guy that can stretch a defense and to have a quarterback that can hit big plays, because it makes everything else easier. When you are a constant threat to rip off a 40-yard pass play, it's tougher for defenses to defend you. It is. I remember those Chiefs teams. Part of what made them so great is because teams always had to play with 2 high safeties, because they knew that Tyreek Hill could get behind them, and that if they did, that Patrick Mahomes was going to make a throw. Okay? And so because of that, it made the layups easier. Throwing the underneath drag route becomes easier when there's 2 high safeties. Running the football when there's 1 less guy in the box becomes easier. Explosive plays are the most important part of any NFL offense. And the fact that the Colts showed that they're capable of doing that is a great sign for things to come down the road. Does Anthony Richardson need to be more consistent? Yes, I've said that all offseason. Okay, but the fact that he, in only his 5th start, is capable of hitting these big plays, meanwhile guys like Will Levis can't, it's a good sign for the Colts and for Anthony Richardson and whether or not he's good enough to play in the league. Okay, he's going to get better at making the layups, at throwing the 4-yard slant, at throwing the 8-yard curl route. He's going to get better at it. And when that happens, this Colts offense is going to go to a new level. But even with that element of the offense absent, and even with no run game from Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson was still able to lead this Colts team to 27 points, which more times than not should be enough for the Colts to win their games. Okay, 268 of the Colts' total 303 yards came at the hands of Anthony Richardson on Sunday. If he starts hitting his layups, watch out, folks. This Colts offense is going to start rolling. Okay, a large part of why Anthony Richardson had all those yards was because of Alec Pierce, who I was wrong about in the offseason, and I would like to address that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, maybe you're watching live on Twitter. Follow me there at _ Jonathan Smith. Check out our station's Twitter there as well at Ticket 1430 for all the news on my show and Dan Dockett's show. Maybe you're listening via the Indy Sports Ticket app, but you can download wherever you download your apps. Maybe you're watching on YouTube, though. The best way to consume the real Jonathan Smith Show, head over there, subscribe, join the live stream, join the conversation. Who knows what they're going to talk about in that YouTube chat. Head over there, subscribe, though. I think we're close to like 100 subscribers, which would be pretty sick if we got there today. So thanks for tuning in, though. No matter how you're tuning in. Alec Pierce, Sunday, great for the Colts. So great. Alec Pierce, I've been unfair to. Okay, I did not take into account who his quarterbacks were his first 2 years in the NFL. So he comes in as a rookie. Matt Ryan and Sam Ehlinger were his quarterbacks. That's not fun for anybody. I don't wish that on any young wide receiver you have to deal with. That is not great. And then last year, second year of Alec Pierce's career, he has Gardner Minshew, who, good quarterback, journeyman, fringe starter, right? He's a backup on a good team, starter of a bad team. That's kind of where Gardner Minshew is on the quarterback scale. And he just didn't have the arm strength to push the ball down the field to Alec Pierce. And that is where Alec Pierce is at his best. Now he has a guy in Anthony Richardson that is looking to take those deep shots. And we saw it on Sunday. Alec Pierce can make plays down the field. Okay, he's got the speed to get behind the defense. We saw that on the 65-yard bomb from Anthony Richardson that Alec Pierce scored on. And Alec Pierce is huge. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 215 or whatever. And he has this incredible ability to just jump over everybody and snag the football. Right? We saw that on the second big play that he made in the fourth quarter, right? Like he is a guy who has a skill set that Anthony Richardson needs in a receiver, right? Like I like the idea of Anthony Richardson throwing to these bigger guys, just because bigger guys have a bigger catch radius and all those things. It just makes life a little bit easier on Anthony Richardson as he becomes more polished as an NFL quarterback. And Alec Pierce could have a big year this year. I don't think he's going to lead the Colts in receiving yards or anything crazy like that. But I do think that we're going to see him have these flashy games like we saw week 1. Okay, like if he played this week and he had one catch for like 8 yards, like that wouldn't surprise me. But then in week 3, if he had 4 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown and 2 big plays down the field, that wouldn't surprise me either. Like I think that's just the type of receiver that he is, kind of like a Gabe Davis in Buffalo scenario, where it's like, yeah, he doesn't run great routes, but he's big, he's fast, he's athletic, and he can make contested catches down the field, which is nice for Anthony Richardson to have a guy like that this early in his career. And, I said it before the year started. I said that I thought that Josh Downs would be the leading receiver for the Colts this year because I think his skill set just better fits what Anthony Richardson wants to throw, whereas Michael Pittman Jr., who's led the Colts in receiving yards the last 3 years, 100 catches for over 1,000 receiving yards last year, like the stuff that he's good at isn't what Anthony Richardson is good at. And we saw it yesterday. I think Michael Pittman Jr. only had like three receptions for like 34 yards. I don't think that's going to be normal for Pittman. I think he'll be closer to like 5 receptions for 50-ish yards. But the skill set that Anthony Richardson possesses much more appeals to guys like Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, and A.D. Mitchell. And I think that over the course of time, as Anthony Richardson becomes more polished, I think that we'll kind of see a resurgence for Michael Pittman Jr. at some point. But for the most part, Anthony Richardson, he's throwing the ball deep or he's hitting guys really short. And that just isn't what Michael Pittman Jr. is great at. Now, with that being said, I would like to see Anthony Richardson get better at that intermediate passing game. I hope we see it on Sunday. I do, because being able to work all 3 levels is nice. It's important. And I do think we'll eventually see Anthony Richardson reach that point. He's just not there as of right now. Sunday, Colts going on the road to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers. Got to have this one. Got to have it. You're playing Malik Willis, who has 0 career games with 100 yards passing. 0. Malik Willis was traded for a 7th-round pick. That's all that we need to know about the guy. This is a game that the Colts should win every time that they play. And even though that it's a game that they should win every time they play, I'm still nervous because of what we saw from the front seven on Sunday. And the Packers are going to give the Colts a heavy dose of Josh Jacobs because they're playing a backup quarterback. Can this front seven, can this defensive line be more than a pass rushing defensive line? Can they stop the run? Can Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed get off their podcast long enough to go get better at football and help stop the run? Because they were terrible on Sunday. Okay. And it's not just Josh Jacobs anymore. Like if you're playing the Packers and Jordan Love's in there, then you only have to worry about Josh Jacobs. But since it's Malik Willis, like that adds obviously another layer to their run game. So I am legitimately interested and kind of concerned about the game on Sunday. With that being said, I expect for the Colts to win. Okay, the Packers opened as 4-point favorites, but the Colts are now favored by 3.5. That doesn't tell you how bad Malik Willis is. Okay, this is the game that the Colts need to win. If they can win on Sunday, then they should be set up to potentially start the year 3-1, right? You get the Bears at home. Week 3, Caleb Williams, young. He didn't play very well at all on Sunday. He didn't. 93 passing yards, completed like 50% of his passes. I do think that he'll figure it out at some point, but he's young. He's a rookie. It takes time to learn how to be good at football in the NFL. Okay, like this isn't an easy thing. Like it is hard to play quarterback in the NFL, even to complete those short passes, right? But the longer you do it, the easier things become, the more you learn. I am excited and looking forward to how Anthony Richardson progresses over the year. I think Alec Pierce is going to be a major benefactor of Anthony Richardson playing quarterback this year. I'm excited to watch it all unfold. I'm excited to watch the Colts on Sunday. And I'm excited to listen to the Dan Dockett Show, which starts here in about 5 minutes. I'll be back on the air tomorrow from noon to 3. I'll be back on the air tomorrow from 10 to noon. Can't wait for that. Should be a great show. The Dan Dockett Show coming your way here in 5 minutes.